Erika, thank you so much for joining Mermaid Tales. I'm so grateful to have you here. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Erika. I live in the Chicago area, but I went to college in Hawaii, so that's where my Instagram handle, that Big Island Mermaid, comes from.
Yeah.
That's actually where I started mermaiding and I got my first tail there. So yeah, that's been a big part of my life. I try to go back and visit every year. But yeah, I'm 28. I do mermaiding. I work for a company called Windy City Mermaids, and I do a lot of gigs through them. But I've done some other stuff on my own and like collaborated with other people as well. And then my day job, I work as a project coordinator for an interior designer.
What island were you on for
So
uni?
I was on. It's just called Hawaii. The nickname is the Big Island.
Yeah.
So it's not Oahu. That's like where most people go. I went to University of Hawaii Hilo, which is the smaller campus.
Okay.
But yeah, I was in a town called Kona, and it was just like the best time of my life. So.
Oh my God. I had a friend of mine many years ago
Mhm.
when I was in field training. A friend of mine was going to the University of Hawaii in Honolulu, and I went and visited her, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is where you go to school, as opposed to me, I'm in like the frozen tundra of Vermont. So I'm sure that must have been an absolute dream to go to school there.
Yeah, it was the best. We went when I was like a kid. I think I was a sophomore in high school, maybe a little younger. We did a family trip and went there, and I knew immediately, like in my head after that trip, I'm like, I gotta come back here someday. So it was cool that I made it happen.
That is, it's a really beautiful thing in your life when you have those moments of like, oh my gosh, this is something that's meant to be. And then you make it happen because a lot of people, they'll, manifest it in their heads, but they don't realize that manifesting takes action. You have to be able to
Yeah.
take the steps for yourself. So I think that's really beautiful that you then made it happen. And especially at such a young age, because a lot of people would be scared to do that big of a jump. I mean, because did you grow up in Chicago?
Yeah, I did. Born and raised
That's a
here.
huge difference. My
Yeah, it
gosh.
really is. So yeah, it was definitely crazy, but the best thing I feel like I've ever done.
Awesome. So, did you start mermaiding when you were in Hawaii? So, like, tell me about how you discovered it.
Yeah, so I found out my all my tales are Finfolk Productions, and
You-
I found out about them when I was in high school. I've always been obsessed with mermaids since a kid. Like I loved Little Mermaid and then H2O and all the things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always wanted a tail, and in high school I didn't have money to like buy a tail, so I just never had anything until I was in college. I won a Finfolk giveaway, and that's how I got my first tail.
Oh, you're like the first person I've met who've actually won one. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was so crazy. It was like right before my birthday too, so it was kind of perfect. Yeah, so that was really exciting. I got the Riverbend tail. It's still my favorite tail I own. And yeah, my first like gig there, I was cast as like a mermaid extra in a film called Mermaid's Lament. Yeah, it was super fun. It was like the craziest experience. Yeah, it's like a little indie film. It's on Amazon Prime though, so yeah.
So, you got your tail right before your birthday. So, clearly, the universe was just like, we need to put this in place for this next year for you. And then you get to be in a film, and it sounds like you were off to the races, basically.
Yeah, it was so crazy how that all worked out. It was pretty cool. So, yeah.
So, did you mermaid all during college and then afterward, knew you wanted this as a career?
Yeah, that was like the only gig I really had in Hawaii. I just kind of did it for fun, like with friends, just swimming around and photo shoots and all the things. And
Yeah.
then when I like graduated and moved back to Chicago, I wanted to do it here. There's no ocean or anything. So I found like mermaid Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of found out about Windy City Mermaids. I joined that group because there's like a pod, and then now there's like the team too. So like
Yeah.
we work there. And yeah, I met up with everyone there and then eventually started working for them, and that's kind of how it all went down.
I think, it's one of those things where I'm very grateful that I connected with the mermaid community really late in life. And I say late in life is I got my first tail as my 30th birthday gift to myself. And,
Okay, that's awesome.
I was living in a world where, I wasn't going to tell a lot of people, like outside of my besties, of like, yeah, I got this tail. And my bestie did an amazing photo shoot for me on the beach for my 30th. And, I was playing around with it. But I didn't know there were like a ton of other people out there where this would be such a really cool community to join. And so the
Yeah.
fact that you're living in an area that's not by the ocean.
Yeah.
And I think that's a misconception of a lot of people of like, you have to be in some beautiful tropical place. And we all know, yes, it's fun in those beautiful tropical places,
For
but you don't
sure.
have to be in those. And I think that's really cool that you just, found a local group that was doing it. So
Mhm.
I assume you do training in a pool with that group.
Yeah, so I haven't done any stuff in a while. I feel like in the winter it gets super slow, but yeah, when they would do pool meetups, that's kind of how I first started meeting them. And
Yeah,
then eventually I got my mermaid certification, the Patty Mermaid
yeah,
certification, and did some training with that. Yeah.
that's really cool. Tell me about when you got your certification. Like, what got you interested in taking that step?
A lot of other people, like in the Windy City Mermaids group, got it, and now it's required. When I
Okay,
started, the company was like just starting. I think I was the first person she hired. So
okay.
now there's so many people and there's like new requirements. So yeah, you need that to do like water gigs. So yeah, that's kind of why I got it. I also just I thought it would be fun. I love scuba diving. I have a bunch of different PADI certifications that aren't mermaid related. I have
Yeah.
like my rescue diver and dive master and all that stuff. So it was kind of fun like getting back into it and like yeah, having another like PADI class. So
Definitely.
yeah.
When I first got into, well, so I've always been an ocean creature. Like, that's been my happy place. And I thought the closest I'd ever be to being a mermaid was to get scuba certified. And so it was something to me. It's so magical to be under the water and just be at this beautiful peace and calm. I'm very fortunate. I've gotten to dive in some amazing places. Most recently, I was in Tulum and I got to dive in the cenotes, which was so cool. If you haven't done that, what are
That
some
is
of your
so
favorite dive
cool.
locations?
So I took a gap year kind of like before college and
Yeah.
that's where I got certified. I did a lot of like marine conservation work and stuff.
Mhm.
So I got certified in the Bahamas. I was there for a while, which was really cool. So that was a really fun spot to dive. I dove in Costa Rica because then I went there next. That's where I got my dive master and like rescue diver. And
I'm gonna have to pick your brain. I'm literally going there in 2 months.
oh my gosh, it's so fun. It was like the best time. It's so beautiful over there and like the nature is just
Better
insane.
than Hawaii?
I wish I got to see more of Costa Rica. I was only in like one place the whole time, and I would think I was like 19 when I was there. So it's been a hot second. It's been almost like 10 years. So Hawaii's more fresh, but I feel like they're very similar. So
Okay.
yeah. And then I've also dove in Turks and Caicos because I studied abroad there too, and that was
Oh my
really
gosh,
cool.
you did so many study abroads. I'm jealous. I didn't do any of that, so that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like super fun. So
What is your favorite thing you've seen underwater?
definitely sharks. Yeah, I think sharks are really cool. It's a little scary, but it's cool at the same time. I kind of like the thrill.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one dive in Costa Rica I did. They were like smaller sharks. They were, I think, black tip reef sharks or something. And I saw like 20 on one dive. It was insane. There were so many. So I never normally see that many, but that was a cool one.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
you think people have any misconceptions about scuba diving with sharks or mermaid sharks?
Probably. I think a lot of people are scared of sharks. My best friend, that's like one of her biggest fears. But I've never had any issues with them. I think like as long as they're not provoked, like they're pretty harmless. I think people don't really know that. So, yeah.
I 100% agree. I think that's one of the things that there is, like with anything in the world. I mean, if you could have dangerous things on land and whatnot, and it's one of those: be aware of your surroundings, be respectful of your surroundings, don't
Yeah.
provoke the predators that are around it, and everything will be, calm and good and whatnot.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
your breath. And I think that's, I know for me, learning the mermaid breath work and the freediving breath work has been really helpful in kind of going in, with my meditations and kind of
Mhm.
getting into that type of a healthier headspace on things. And especially if you're underwater, of like keeping your calm and
Yeah.
knowing everything's going to be good is so important.
Yeah, for sure.
So, so you mentioned your first fin folk tail. How many
Yeah.
other tails do you have?
I think I have like 7 now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it just kind of took off from there. I got one like secondhand in a Facebook group, which I think is like something more people should know about. Tails are so expensive. So you can get secondhand ones and everything. There's so many groups on Facebook I've learned, which is cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got my second one through that. My friends got me one for like my birthday once. A bunch of them chipped in, which was nice.
Oh.
And then yeah, I just bought a couple other ones as time went on. So
Do you have a favorite monofin?
I like the Finnish shooter the best just because it's like
Yeah.
the fastest. But I use the Linden a lot more just because it's more comfortable. And I feel like, especially for like long gigs and whatever, the shooter can like be pretty tough on my feet. But like swimming, it's my favorite one.
Now I'm curious for you on the shooter because the shooter was the first monofin I got,
Mhm.
and I maybe I should have done. I'm not somebody who's like I go on Reddit, like that's just not my thing. No harm to anybody who does.
Yeah.
I'm just a very bad millennial, and so I'm just very bad on the internet. And so I got it, and I was at a retreat where of course and I'm at a retreat. It's a certifying retreat, so you're in the water a lot,
Yeah.
and I cut up my feet terribly
Oh no.
because of that rubber because it was the old school one that just had the flat top
Yeah.
across the toes. And so I'm curious. Once I learned that, then I needed to wear socks with it. Do you have to do that same thing with
I
yours?
do that too. Yeah, I've worked the past 2 years the Michigan Renaissance Festival, and they have a tank I'm in. And the first time I wore it without socks, my feet were like bleeding. It was so bad. So I learned to wear socks for sure, like especially if you're in the water for a long time. When I do like things like birthday parties, those are usually shorter and fine, and I don't really have that many issues. But the Renaissance Festival, I learned a lot. The eyes, for sure, that was like a bad one because it's so chlorinated and you're just like in this tank. So I still struggle with that. I use eye drops, eye gel, and eye wash when I'm doing that, and I still
Yeah.
get red, but I think that's all I can really do. It helps a little bit, but yeah, that's a little rough. The first time I worked there too, the tank wasn't filled like high enough, I don't
Mhm.
think. So when I was like taking pictures with people, I would like go on the edge and stuff, and like my arms were all bruised. Like it looked pretty rough. So I learned to make sure like the water's high enough or like figure out different positions to be in. And yeah, I feel like it's all just kind of like a learning curve. You learn as you go. And yeah.
So, what would you say is one piece of advice you would have for somebody who's just becoming a professional mermaid of like a big lesson learned you had, good or bad?
Yeah. I think just to like always try to be as like prepared as you can be. Like make sure you have all your stuff ready before a gig. Have like backup things with you. Like if you have like multiple mermaid tops, like bring two. Because yeah, you just never know when something could go wrong. It's nice to be prepared.
Definitely. So, do you have a go bag then of like your things you always have ready just in case?
Yeah, I usually will have yeah, two tops, like extra swimsuits. I Sometimes I'll bring two monofins. I don't think that's really necessary unless you use the linden. Sometimes the strap could break, I hear, but that's never happened to me yet. So yeah, it's been good so far.
Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear that. So, when I was in Bali 2 years ago
Mhm.
for Mermaid Hannah's retreat, I managed to break my Finnish shooter, like so
Oh
much so, like
no.
it full on cracked, like the fiberglass, like
Okay.
right at that toe part. And then because of my the film, the vinyl managed to somehow like swirl down and then cut into the rubber. So it fully like cut through the rubber, like only this much left.
Oh
It was
no.
not
That's
cut.
crazy. I didn't even know like that could happen.
I didn't know either, and it was one of those things where I was so sad because I love the power of the Finniss
Yeah.
as opposed to the Linden's good,
Mhm.
and Linden I feel like looks better in photos because then you don't have the Finniss is flat
Yeah,
and that at least holds the shape better. But boy, the Finniss has such power when you're swimming.
for
You're
sure.
jet propulsion, baby, and I
Yeah.
prefer that.
It's the best. I had that before I could like afford a mermaid tail or get anything. I got the Finnish shooter and I had it for like 2 or 3 years before I even had a tail. I just loved like swimming with it and that was like good
Yeah,
practice before
absolutely.
becoming a mermaid too, which was good. So,
So you sounds like you worked the Michigan Renaissance Festival a couple times. How many times have you worked it?
yeah, so I've done that the past 2 years and then I've also done the St. Louis Renaissance Festival once, but that there's no tank for that. That was like a dry land gig. So, yeah.
So which do you prefer, the tank gigs or the dry land gigs?
I definitely prefer the tank gigs, but in like this past year when I did it, I did 4 weekends in a row. Um, and yeah, it ended up being a lot on my eyes. I don't know why it bothered my eyes. I feel like more than everyone else. I guess I just have sensitive eyes. So I don't know. In like small doses, I prefer the tank.
Well, I've never performed at a festival, so that's one of those things where like I'm curious, what was the most exciting part of it for you and the more challenging part?
There were so many exciting parts. I feel like it's kind of hard to pick one.
Let's
I did like
well, give me
that.
all of them then.
That's true. I did like that the crowd, there was a lot more adults, which was kind of fun. I
Yeah.
love kids too. Like there were so many kids that were amazing too, but it was just nice having a bigger variety and just seeing how excited everyone gets. And yeah, it was super cool. There was this one person, this was a really fun experience. She came my first year I was there, and yeah, we took a picture, whatever. And then the next year she came back and she showed me the picture and she was like, this was us last year and I was pregnant. And then she had her baby with her and she's like, this is my baby now, can we like take another picture? And I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. Like that was so cute and like touching.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was awesome. On breaks, getting around, you have to be like kind of in disguise. You don't want people to recognize you. So, and when I do the Renaissance Festival, usually I have like wigs on and I glue them down because I'm in the water. So I have to like put a hood on. I brought like a cloak last year and just wore that around and like kept my head down. So you have to be kind of sneaky.
You're incognito. You are a famous celebrity and trying to avoid the paparazzi. Don't take a picture of me. You don't know
Honestly, that's kind of what it feels like. It's kind of hilarious, but yeah.
that is really cool. I can imagine as a mermaid perform like when I was growing up, there weren't these really, I don't feel like outside of like TV and movies, you saw mermaids really. At least maybe I was not lucky enough to. Maybe I was at the wrong birthday parties. Maybe was like the key here within this. But I think
Yeah.
it's so cool that there are so many areas now where mermaids can interact with the public more often, and so many aquariums, for instance, or having mermaid performers come in, or the Renaissance festivals, and where you can actually see the mermaid swimming in live and not just sitting somewhere. Not saying the sitting ones aren't good too, because I know as a kid I still would have had a major freak out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, what is what reactions made you the happiest in one of those situations? Because I know for me, one of the reasons I love this is sparking a joy with people, whether it's children or adults, and just that magic that we often, especially for adults, that we often forget as we get older. But like when we interact with kids on this light just goes off in their eyes, and you're creating this beautiful experience for them, and like it's so touching and beautiful, and to be able to create that childhood magic, I think is so special. So what's that, do you have a couple of memories of those type of interactions for yourself, either as a kid or you've created now that you're a professional mermaid?
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I never met a mermaid, so unfortunately, I didn't have any of those. I just always, saw them on screen, and that was pretty much it. But yeah, I've had so many cool interactions with kids. I love reoccurring people. That's like one of my favorite things. There was this one girl. It was actually my first mermaid gig with Windy City Mermaids. It was at this
Yeah.
one hotel. They did like Meet the Mermaids thing. And there was this one girl, her name was Addie, and she was there and she liked us so much. So she had us come for her birthday, which was super cool too. So then that was my first birthday gig I did. And I got to see her again. And then I worked this thing called Unicorn Worlds. And then she came to see me at Unicorn World. And that was just like super special seeing how much it meant, like needing a mermaid mentor, that I got to see her 3 times, which was really cool. Trying to think. I've had like a lot of cool interactions at the Renaissance Festival too, like people coming back. There was a vendor there whose daughter would come and see me like every day because, they were working there, and that was super cute. So yeah, it was really fun.
That's awesome. So how did you get involved with Windy City Mermaids? I'm sure there are so many mermaids out there who would love to engage with a group like that, because becoming a professional mermaid, can be a challenge if you're just solo. So, how did you get involved with them?
Yeah, that was through Honestly, yeah, through Facebook. 'Cause yeah, I found the group on Facebook and then eventually started working with them. And now they're getting a lot bigger and expanding. They're not just having people like hiring people from Chicago. They have people in other areas as well. So that's something people can look into if they were interested. And yeah.
So you mentioned that they require you to be Patty Mermaid certified,
Yeah.
uh, and I'm assuming also scuba certified, right?
No, I don't think you need to be scuba certified, just the Patty Mermaid certifications. And I believe it's just for water gigs. I think if you're doing dry land gigs, you don't have to be certified. It always helps to have more certifications though, but if you're not doing underwater gigs, I don't think that's required with them. They do require like performers insurance now too, so that's something else you need to get, but that's super easy to do.
So as a professional mermaid, what are some of the other things that you have to carry, whether it be performance insurance or things like that, that most people would not be aware
Honestly, I just think the performers insurance was something because I had never heard about that until the Renaissance festivals because they required it. And then slowly I've been hearing about it more and more. More events I do are like, you need this. And there's a bunch of different like companies you can get it through. You can buy it just for specific gigs, which is kind of what I've been doing, but you could also have it like yearly or whatever. So there's like a bunch of different options and plans and stuff.
of. What's something when you became a professional mermaid that you wish you knew then that you know now?
I think maybe when I first started, I was super nervous and like always worried about what I was going to say and do. And I've just learned to like have fun with it. Kids, like if you mess up a little bit or whatever, like kids don't really notice or pick up on it. Yeah, it's pretty chill. It's really fun.
That's awesome. Did you ever think you were going to become a professional mermaid? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I did always want to be a mermaid. As I got older, it was marine science is what I wanted to do, which is why I went to Hawaii. I'm not doing that now. The job I have now, I don't. It was really random how it happened, but I love it, so I'm okay with not doing that now. But the mermaid stuff is nice. It like brings my love for the water into things.
You go with it and you figure out how to get it in the schedule where you can, but hopefully not at a point where you're typing yourself, you know,
Yeah,
becoming a
for sure.
challenge. I know for me, juggling, so in my normal world,
Mhm.
I'm a software sales professional. And
Okay.
so I'm juggling, well, I create this company specifically trying to bring mermaiding for everyone. That's my goal here. Because similar to you, like right now I live in an area, I live in DC,
Mhm.
where, I'm not by the ocean and it's not a typical area that would attract, people interested in that. Or let me rephrase that,
Yeah.
be easy for people to, take on this hobby. And I think one of the beautiful things about the mermaid community is you can really do it from anywhere, sparking that joy for yourself. There are so many different ways. It doesn't necessarily always mean you have to be, by the ocean or in a hot climate. I have met other mermaids who are living in the middle of the desert, other mermaids who are in like the frozen tundra. And I think
Yeah.
that's the really cool thing is we can all come with different experiences and touch this lifestyle in different ways that fit best for our lives. Whether that's, I'm just discovering this and I want to play with the beautiful wigs and the cool tops and the tails. I remember before I even got my first swimming tail, a friend of mine got me a one of those mermaid blankets. It was like a beautiful crocheted blanket.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Exactly. And so I think there are different ways that you can incorporate this into your life in different ways. And it's just figuring out what's going to spark that joy for you.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
exactly. And transitioning it, if you do it professionally, how do you do it with a balance that, if you have to have, I mean, most of us still need those normal jobs to be able to do this part of enjoyment.
Yeah.
But how do I respect and honor those different pieces of my life and create healthy boundaries where I can do the different pieces? Because I think that's the beautiful thing. Like as we said earlier, we can manifest different things in our lives, but
Mhm.
it can't all be up here. It has to be taken through some kind of action.
Yeah, for sure.
And that means planning. I know for me, that means my calendar, everything has to be in my calendar because if it's not there, it doesn't exist.
Same.
Are there
Yeah, I
tips and tricks for you that you'd use?
definitely keeping things in my calendar. I feel like I'm better now with my phone calendar because I actually check that every day. I used to write
Yeah.
things down, but I wouldn't look at it every day. So for me, I need stuff on my phone, I think. Setting like reminders and everything too helps.
Have you met some really cool people in your Merpod that you've created close friendships with?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like everyone I've like met from the Merpod is super cool, and then there's a lot of them that I've also worked with a bunch.
Yeah.
There's Mermaid Sushi. I've done so many gigs with her, like multiple Renaissance festivals. We did Unicorn World together. We've done like birthday parties, so that's like always been fun. Mermaid Emily, who also is the founder of Windy City Mermaids, we've done a lot of things together. Yeah, it's just super fun, like being able to do it with someone else too. It's fun having events where there's more than one mermaid, because it always just keeps it entertaining and fun. Yeah, it's so fun. And even my friends that like aren't mermaids, I've let them try my tail before. We've done like photo shoots together. That's always super fun, like bringing people into it who don't normally do it. It's cool. It's like a special time.
I That's actually probably one of my favorite things. So she's my mom's first cousin. So she's like in her 80s. I was driving up. She lives in New Jersey, and I had my tail. I bring my tail up. I'm originally from Boston,
Okay.
and I drive up from DC to Boston every summer because I like to. My childhood best friend Marina has a son who loves mermaids, and
Okay.
so they find me on the beach every summer. And I had the tail and everything in the car, and I told my cousin, I was like, "Oh yeah, I have it." She's like, "Oh, that sounds so cool. Can I see what it looks like?" And I was like, "Do you want to try it on?" And seeing this woman who has like the best spirit, she's always laughing. She's one of the kindest people, but she's got like a naughty streak to her that I really love
I
because
love that.
trouble. And we're sitting on her floor. She throws on the tail. She throws my mermaid, silicone top over her t-shirt, and the biggest smile on her.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun. That's like super special. That's awesome.
Exactly. So I'm sure you've done that with your girlfriends. It sounds like on a couple of different situations.
Yeah, I definitely have done that quite a bit. My Turks and Caicos friends, like when I studied abroad there, the place we studied abroad at, they do every year this like vet clinic thing where they have vets come in and spay and like neuter the wild cats and dogs there. So we've gone back to volunteer, and I brought three tails last time I went, and
Yeah.
I got everyone to try it, and it was super fun. We like recreated aged scenes, and we're just being silly, and yeah, yeah, it was really fun.
My friend Ayla, for her bachelorette party, she had a mermaid themed bachelorette party, and
It's awesome.
they recreated that beginning scene in The Little Mermaid where all of the sisters are like singing, dancing around, and they did it in the pool. And she had this shell, one of those floaties, and so she was like hiding in it. And then during the aerial part, they opened it up and revealed her.
Wait,
We all pretended we were mermaids and
yeah,
just
same.
the whole worlds we create. And I think that's what's the really special thing about this.
Yeah, it's so fun. I feel like it heals the child in you, which is really cool. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things. You heal the child in yourself by doing it,
Yeah.
and then you shine a beautiful light on others who get to see this magic and go, wow, I don't have to conform to just, what being an adult means today.
Yeah.
And you can just play, because how often do we get to play just as
I
adults?
know. Like not often. So it's really cool being able to do that.
Well, Erica, thank you so much. I really appreciate you hopping on. This has been really wonderful chatting with you.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Well, where can everybody find you? What are your socials? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at that Big Island Mermaid, and TikTok at Mermaid Erika. My name's spelled with a K, so Erika. And then yeah, the Windy City Mermaids website, there's a little section about me there too, and you can book me through there or just message me on Instagram.
I hope you have some amazing summer days and spring days upcoming, and really appreciate you taking the time today.